Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. How's Eddie Frederick?
So glad you can join us. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister is optimistic that the worst is behind the Twin Island Republic. This story takes the lead in our 1020th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Monday, 4th January 2021. Details when we return. Welcome back. As 2020 closed, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago has expressed optimism for the new year with regard to the new vaccines for COVID-19. And as he said, the government will be initiating its roadmap to recovery from the economic impact of COVID-19. He acknowledged it will not be an easy task. The opposition leader, however, says as 2020 closed, Trinidad and Tobago is at the crossroads in its history. Jewel Brown of TV6 News reports.
On OLS Day, the Health Ministry said there were 18 new COVID-19 cases in Trinidad and Tobago, with one new COVID death, taking the total COVID death toll to 127. The Health Ministry also said that on the last day of 2020, there were 373 positive COVID cases in TNT, and that from March 12th to December 31st, 2020, there had been a total of 7,150 COVID cases, but that the total number of patients who recovered from COVID was 6,650. In his New Year's message, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said he believes the worst is behind us, as he made reference to the COVID-19 pandemic that changed much of our way of life in 2020. The Prime Minister said with the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine, global demand and economic activity are expected to return. Improvements are expected in world energy prices, commodity markets, employment in the restaurant, entertainment, and distribution sectors are expected back slowly. Dr. Rowley said the IMF projects that Trinidad and Tobago will see economic growth of 2.6% this year as compared to the minus 5.6% of 2020. He spoke of the government's new incentives for agriculture and improvements to the inter-island ferry service in 2020 and reminded the population that the government has already signed an agreement with Lightsource BP and Shell for the construction of a 150 megawatt solar power plant, which would represent 10% of the nation's total power generation capacity. But Dr. Rowley also said the health, economic, and psychosocial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on people's lives has been enormous, causing strains on governments, just like the government of Trinidad and Tobago, to extend its policy reach so that no one will be left behind. He said the COVID-19 vaccines are considered as the light in the tunnel, but those scars in the global economy will take many years to heal. In her New Year's message, Opposition Leader Kamla Persad-Bissessor said the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has had severe impacts on our daily lives, ranging from job losses, restrictions in our movement, and for some, the unfortunate loss of loved ones. Mrs. Persad-Bissessor said currently, thousands of our fellow citizens remain stranded abroad, unsure when and if they will return home. She urged the government to fix what she called its broken exemption process and provide clarity, information, and support to our citizens stranded abroad as to when they can make their way home. The government recently defended its repatriation policy, saying it was fair and without discrimination. But the opposition leader expressed concerns on other matters, as she said, quote, "What is even more disturbing is the attacks by this government on our independent institutions," end quote. She said the judiciary, non-governmental organizations, the media, and even private citizens face accusations of treason for daring to question the actions of the government. Mrs. Persad-Bissessor called on all citizens to continue to demand transparency and equity from the government. But she said throughout this pandemic, we saw the spirit of the people of our beloved nation, the spirit of kindness, courage, and compassion. Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
Antigua's Prime Minister Gaston Brown has struck an optimistic note in his New Year's address to the nation. ABS's Ursel Charles Jr. recaps the comments from the head of government as the nation looks towards a better year following the travails of 2020.
The year 2021 has officially begun, and Prime Minister Gaston Brown has addressed the nation. His New Year's message is filled with optimism as this country continues to forge ahead despite the challenges of the year 2020. Brown has called for collective action among citizens and residents of this country.
We are stronger than we imagined, and that no child can daunt the will of a nation whose people assume the mantle of their brother's keeper, their sister's protector, and their children's guardian.
Brown has also called for the nation to remember the staunch defense against the ravages of COVID-19 and posits the robust management of this defense should guide future resilience and action.
As a nation, we stare the world's greatest adversity in the face, neither crouching down in fear nor surrendering to its power. We acted in unity to resist it.
The Prime Minister says there is no doubt this country is ready to handle any challenges meted out to it in 2021 and reminds experience is the greatest teacher.
Now we stand vigorous and vibrant as a resilient people filled with optimism of the prospects for a brighter future. Hence, we know that whatever the new year brings, we have the confidence to face it, the capacity to master it, and the will to triumph over it.
The Prime Minister is also agitating for solidarity in this new year. For ABS News, I'm Ursil Charles Jr.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Nemo in St. Lucia warns against panic as disaster officials keep a close watch on recent volcanic activity in neighboring St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Solage Alfred of HTS News Force in St. Lucia reports.
An orange level high hazard zone warning has been placed on St. Vincent and the Grenadines following seismic activity that triggered an effusive eruption of the La Soufriere volcano. Acting Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, Maria Medad, explains what the hazard warning means for the neighboring sister isle.
An effusive eruption is something where the lava would seep slowly off from the dome that has already been created. We note that St. Vincent is at an orange level and that they have advised residents who live to the north in the volcano area to be prepared just in case they have to issue an evacuation order. There has been no order for evacuation as yet, but residents just have to be prepared in St. Vincent just in case.
A press release from the office of NEMO on December 29th reads, quote, NEMO has knowledge of and is monitoring the activity at the La Soufriere volcano St. Vincent based on dialogue with the UWI Seismic Research Center, Trinidad and Tobago. As the situation unfolds, NEMO will provide updates and advisories to the public, unquote.
We are asking people not to panic, just to be on alert, listen to the official sources of information, and what may happen according to the UWI Seismic Research Center is that if again I see that there is an explosive eruption, we may be impacted by the ash and some sort of air quality. But at this point, we cannot exactly see what will happen.
Medad says it's now a waiting game as all officials closely monitor the situation. Concern has already begun to mount with the images and videos on the St. Vincent eruption making the rounds in St. Lucia.
We would be given sufficient time to note whether or not there will be any issues in St. Lucia, and we can advise the public accordingly.
The rumor mill has begun to swirl, with talks of seismic activity also in Martinique. However, the acting director of NEMO could not confirm the reports. She did, however, attempt to quell concerns regarding the linkages of the island's volcanic chain.
In terms of the interconnectivity of the volcanoes in the islands, I don't think there's a need for us to panic. Again, we have to monitor, we have to wait and see what is happening.
Another viral video in circulation, purportedly from Barbados, shows a swirl-like tornado formation that attracts the attention of onlookers.
I serious look, that's a tornado. One idiot. An idiot. Why know that's a tornado going on there? Why sit on there? Why sit on and what that sea start to pick up just now? One idiot. That's a tornado, boy. Yeah, that's a tornado.
Barbados Met Service officials have refuted claims of a tornado, rather referring to the strange occurrence as a dust devil, said to have originated from an intense heating of the ground that creates a small area of low pressure, causing the winds to rise. Though similar in appearance to a tornado, the major difference is that a tornado forms in the sky while a dust devil forms on the ground. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
On Thursday afternoon, Guyana's President Irfan Ali announced a one-off cash grant of 25,000 Guyanese dollars each to workers of the entire public sector, including those who are currently employed at Gaisuco. Find out more in this HGP report with Wendell Badri.
President Irfan Ali on New Year's Eve announced a one-off $25,000 payout to public sector workers as a holiday bonus.
Fellow Guyanese, I am pleased to announce a one-off grant of $25,000 to workers of the entire public sector.
He outlined who is expected to benefit from the government payout, while asserting that the aggregate cost amounts to in excess of 2 billion Ghana dollars and which is expected to benefit some 60,000 workers and their families.
Which includes central government, statutory bodies, subvention agencies, public corporations, government pensioners, and staff of the University of Guyana. To assist these workers to cope with the challenges associated with the COVID-19 pandemic.
The president highlighted that current workers of Gaisuco will also benefit from the payout, while the government seeks to revitalize the corporation and, by extension, the industry. Meanwhile, as he shared Christmas lunch with GDF ranks in the border community of Kaikan in Region 7, Kiyuni Mazuruni, on December 11th, the president announced a 2 weeks tax-free bonus for GDF ranks in their next payslip. On December 16th, at the annual Commissioner's Breakfast, which was held at the Officers' Mess at Ivleri, the president also announced a 2 weeks tax-free bonus for members of the Ghana Police Force. On November 26th, during his address at a ceremony to commence the retrofitting of the Lenora Diagnostic Hospital on the west coast of Demerara into a smart hospital, the president stated, and I quote, "Every healthcare professional will benefit from a 2-week equivalent 2 weeks bonus pay before the end of the year as part of the response to the pandemic," end quote. This newscast reached out to the Ghana Public Service Union for a comment on the payout and to ascertain whether it had been involved in the negotiation process. But one of its executive members would only say that they are not aware of the president's announcement and would compile a statement after analyzing the facts of the matter as a body. Wendell Badri, HGP Nightly News.
A bus crawl attended by officers of the Barbados Prison Service and the Barbados Defense Force on December 26 is being considered by the government as a super spread of coronavirus COVID-19 in Barbados. So said Minister of Health and Wellness Jeffrey Bostic during a live press conference at Lara Court, which began after 8 p.m. on Thursday. He noted that 17 prison officers and 4 BDF officers attended the bus crawl. Bostic had announced during the press conference that of 10 new positive cases of COVID-19 recorded then, 2 were prison officers. Aggressive contact tracing was started and was expected to be completed in 24 hours, Bostic said. The minister also said so far there were 45 more confirmed positive cases of COVID-19. The cases include 32 prison officers and 4 officers of the BDF. The minister also said 200 members of Her Majesty's Prison Guards have been tested so far. He noted that there are over 100 cases of COVID-19 under active investigation. Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley, Minister of Home Affairs Wilfred Abrahams, Chairman of the Cabinet COVID-19 Subcommittee Senator Dr. Jerome Walcott, and Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kenneth George also addressed the press conference.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.